Well, hello and welcome everyone to the New Health Conversation podcast. Hello, Joshua, I believe it is Sharon, Larry, Seymour. Thank you all for joining me on the New Health Conversation podcast. This is not an infomercial. We're going to discuss in this podcast why diets are failing us and show you the absolute medical evidence that whatever diet you're on, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed in the long run. The evidence is clear that you're going to gain back at least as much as lost and more. The diet, we got 80% of America overweight, 50% are obese. Does anybody really think that diets are working? So you have an incredible opportunity in this podcast to really see medical proof. First, we're going to show you medical evidence on traditional diets, any form of lowering calories, which I think is every diet out there. We're going to contrast that for you with seven new peer-reviewed human trial studies that are absolutely shocking the medical world. They're so amazing after almost 38 years of research that men and women weren't even allowed to exercise. And with this new protocol, which is not a diet, they ended up losing as much weight in a week as 8 weeks of any diet. They ended up losing as much, by the way, it's safe weight loss, okay? They lost as much weight in 30 days as in diets in 10, 12 months. And instead of losing lean muscle with no exercise allowed, the researchers didn't want exercise to be part of it, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. No one's ever seen anything like this before, especially the researchers for 38 years. So you have a very good chance. Hold on, let me show you. This is what we're talking about, why diets are failing us. And honestly, the new approach is mind-boggling. It's blowing away all the nutritional researchers. So this is what we're talking about, why diets are failing us. And most importantly, what do the new studies say that you can do about it? Would you be excited if you could lose as much weight in a week as in 8 weeks of any diet, with it being safe and without you losing any water weight or losing lean muscle, actually gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass? You can see there, the New Health Conversation, that's our free website, and I mean free. If you go there, we won't contact you, I promise you. But what we will do is give you the opportunity to see all the medical proof we're going to present in this podcast today. And then if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free consultation. I mean free. No gimmicks, no tricks, no bait and switch. Absolutely, you are going to be able to see for your benefit. Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain weight? Do you have any medical challenges? Do you sleep in bed? Whatever your challenges may be, I don't see anybody else on social media that's offering you free consultations. And I mean free, without messing around, without trying to twist your arm, convincing you. We don't convince people. We show you the medical proof. So again, for the new people, this is the New Health Conversation podcast. We're discussing today why diets are failing us. And I don't think there's much defense when we have 80% of America overweight and 50% are obese. Now, maybe you're going to be part of the 20% apparently, but you got to understand that the whole thing is getting worse and worse. Obesity in 2018 was 40% or 42% of the population. Now they're saying 6 years later, it's 50%. So that's a growth of about like 24% in just 6 years. And we keep coming up with all these new diet titles. But at the end of the day, isn't every diet out there some form of lowering calories? And that becomes the downside. So for some of you people, I know you're skeptical. It's obvious you are, because they're jumping off, right? But aren't you curious? If you could safely lose as much weight in a week as in 8 or 10 weeks of any diet, doesn't that interest you? If you could lose as much weight in a month as a year of any diet, and instead of losing lean muscle mass, actually gaining lean muscle mass, that's what these new medical studies are proving. It's not up for debate. We have 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, but it's a lot more than just weight loss and fitting in your skinny jeans, because also people load their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, their triglycerides, all in 30 days. My gosh, hunger went down by 41% in 30 days. No one's ever seen anything like this ever before. So in this podcast today, where we're going to discuss why diets are failing us, we're going to show you the medical evidence, really, and you can do any diet you want. If you don't like what we're telling you, that's free country. You can go count calories all day long. You can follow these influencers. They're nice. I have nothing against them, but what they're telling you has been disproven medically. Okay, that's not up for debate. So let's start with one of the first big articles here. The title of it, I'm not sure you can read it. It says why you shouldn't count calories. Listen to remember, nothing we're sharing with you. This is all original material. Okay, we're only reading from the actual material. We're not making up anything, right? So they said, truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. 2/3 of the people, they're gaining back more weight than they lost. I mean, how much more evidence do you need to convince you that, maybe you need to rethink dieting? Now let's go to Harvard Medical School. This one's titled Stop Counting Calories. Harvard Medical School. What did they say? The idea of a calorie in and a calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist at Harvard Medical School. She goes on to say, drop the calories notion, says Stanford. It's time to take a different approach, putting the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not how many calories you're consuming. It's really that, that's what's going on. Now, if we look at, I'm going to just show you to save time, a study of studies. So this is the Journal of the American Medical Association. It was a 12-month study where they named, the title of the study was Comparison of Weight Loss Among Named Diet Programs. So they looked at 48 different studies, not just one study, and 7,286 people. And what did they find after 12 months? Whether it was paleo, keto, time-restricted eating, all the stuff you're seeing certainly from the influences on social media. In a year's time, the difference in weight between the least amount of weight loss and the most amount of weight loss, no matter what diet, was 10 ounces in a year. And the overall weight loss in 12 months was 16 pounds, with about 40% of that being lean muscle mass. There's the downside right there to every diet out there. And one last study, not one last, but to reemphasize the point, this is the New England Journal of Medicine. I'm reading from the study. No claims, okay? No claims. This is a 12-month study. One group of people lowered calories. The other group of people did time-restricted eating. At the end of 12 months, those lowering calories lost on average 16 pounds. This is in a year, ladies and gentlemen. Time-restricted eating was 12.6 pounds in a year. But here's the downside. Both the time-restricted eating and daily caloric restrictions diets led to the loss of lean muscle mass. That's your Achilles heel on any diet you're on, no matter what you think. The weight you're losing is really anywhere from 30 to 40% your lean muscle mass. And that causes two really unhealthy things to happen in your body. One, the body has no choice when it doesn't have enough nutrition, because it doesn't know what a calorie is. Why are we counting calories? And when you lower nutrition, the body goes and seeks it, because the body runs on nutrition. It doesn't run on calories. So the body then goes out and looks for nutrition. Where does it find it? It starts in our muscles. It breaks our muscles down, converting them to carbohydrates. And then what happens? The body has no choice. There's not enough fuel. It slows down metabolism. When you slow down your metabolism, you can't burn as many calories. You plateau, and then you come off the diet. They already said 2/3 of people that go on diets gain back more weight than they lost. That's not my opinion. Okay. Now, the other thing that happens when you go on a diet and you lose lean muscle mass is you also slow down your own immune system. And if we've learned anything in the last 5 or 6 years, our immune system is kind of important to us, right? So for the new people coming on, this is what we're talking about, why diets are failing us. Because again, 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese. Does anybody really think that that's working? Because it's not. It's pretty obvious, right? Now, we're going to contrast that for you with 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies. And I'm going to run through exactly what did they do, how did they accuse. But first, what did they find in the studies? Who did the studies, first of all? They were conducted by what are considered to be the world's leading nutritional and weight loss researchers for almost 40 years. So very experienced. They looked at every kind of diet out there up to this point. In the studies, some things, they made the rules. Number one rule was no one was allowed to exercise because they didn't want exercise to be an outlier. Despite that, men and women lost as much weight in a week as 8 weeks of any of the diets they'd looked at for almost 40 years. So this isn't like they just arrived yesterday, okay? And in all the diets they'd ever looked at, they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, right? Which they also did in these 7 new studies. Well, it turns out that people in the studies lost as much weight in a month, 30 days, as, like, for example, in this New England Journal of Medicine study, who they lost 16 pounds in a year, these people lost 16 pounds in a month. It's in the public record. It's actually on our website. We can see it there, the New Health Conversation. You can go there and you can see the medical studies if you want to. You don't have to. But if you go there and you like what you see, including an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world for almost 40 years, who says unequivocally they'll never recommend any form of a traditional diet again of counting calories. Not my opinion, that's what they're saying. Well, anyway, it turns out that people, instead of losing lean muscle mass, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle with no exercise. They lost weight 12 times faster than any diet, but that was the tip of the iceberg. What else did they find? They lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammation all went down in 30 days. They lowered hunger by 41% in 30 days, and they also lowered inflammation by 25% in a month. Now, the big question always comes up, what did they do? How did they accomplish something that no one had ever seen before? Well, here's what they did. The researchers, because of their 38 years of experience, realized that every diet that ever put somebody on was a given. They were going to lower calories or lower food intake. But in doing that, they also realized that in every case, the main thing people were losing, well, up to 40% of the weight loss was lean muscle mass. And because of that, it slowed down metabolism. The people came off the diets, they gained everything back and more in every diet they've ever looked at. They never had sustainability, okay? The other thing that's really interesting is in the previous studies over 40 years, they had what were called non-responders, meaning they put someone on paleo or they put them on keto and basically lost no weight at all. So it didn't work for everybody, okay? Tony, again, I'm going to point out to you that that's, I'll show you the medical evidence why that's not really a great strategy long term, okay? But let me finish on what the researchers did. So they see, one of the problems with that is 4 ounces of food, you're not getting enough nutrition. It has nothing to do with calories, okay? So let's talk about, and I'm not sure, so are you going then from 6 o'clock at night until noon the next day, Tony, to not eat? Because I'm going to show you the medical evidence on how incredibly unhealthy that is for you, despite the influence that is telling you. Why are they doing that to me every time? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Anyway, to make a long story short, so if you could respond back, just let me know. I stopped eating after 6 p.m. Are you then eating at noon the next day? Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's not so bad. But this whole buzz around time restricted eating, okay? This is New England Journal of Medicine. They did a 12-month study, and they found that time restricted eating now you're not doing time restricted eating to an extent, you are, okay, but not the version where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours. But in a year's time, people lost 12.6 pounds. The key, Tony, is not how much food you're consuming. The key is how much nutrition are you giving your body. And here's the sad part. If you're only doing 4 ounces, our food in this country is becoming nutritionally bankrupt, okay? Meaning it has less and less nutrition. So when you lower the quantity, you're also lowering the quantity of your nutrition. It's sad to tell you that the weight loss you're using, based on not my opinion, but on the medical studies, about 40% of it is lean muscle mass, which in the long run is going to mean that you're going to either plateau or you're going to gain all your weight back. Every study that I have here, that's what they proved. Every single study. It's not up for debate. So the point is that the researchers knew that, right? So what did they do? They went out and searched, well, they found fulfillment companies that had said for years, our food's becoming nutritionally bankrupt in this country. So they found foods from all over the world that had massive amounts of nutrition. Forget the amount of calories, had nothing to do with that. And so they went to places, well, they didn't, but the people that found these food sources had gone to Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, to Tibet, and physically had gone there to get these ingredients or food, whatever you want to call it. And so it was a combination, only 40% of the food from the grocery store, the other 60% from these foods around the world. And then they created 2 completely different ways of eating. One was what's called protein pacing, and the other one was based on what's called intermittent nutritional fasting, not fasting, okay? So anyway, to make a long story short, in these studies, people consume more calories than the people in any of the diets. Now, why could they do that? Well, here's a great book. You may want to read this. You don't have to believe me. This is a great book called The New American Diet, okay, by Stephen Perrin, editor at Men's Health. Listen to what they said about nutrition. This may help to answer the question I'm trying to get across to you. The more nutrition you give your body, the fewer calories it wants to eat, and the more efficiently it burns the calories you do eat. So by doing 4 ounces, I'm sad to tell you that you are basically creating nutritional deficiency in your body. You just are. That's just the way it goes. And so the reason that these studies were so successful, they took this to heart. So they didn't care about how many calories people were consuming. They cared about how much nutrition were they getting. And as what happened, even though the people in the studies consumed more calories than on any other diet, they were doing that. The more nutrition you give your body, the fewer calories it wants to eat. Given the fact in 30 days, Tony, hunger went down 41% in 30 days. 41%, okay? Because again, the more nutrition you give your body, the fewer calories it wants to eat, and the more efficiently it burns the calories you do eat. So what was happening, it didn't matter if there were more calories, the body could more efficiently use them for energy, if that makes sense, okay? So the point is that all these strategies that we have about limiting the quantity of what we're consuming it's just wrong. It just is. Because your body only cares, unless you give your body enough nutrition, I don't care what you do, your body's it's gonna burn your lean muscle in the long run. And basically what you're doing, because I know, okay, let me bring the point home here, Tony. This is a study done in the Lancet, the #1 medical journal in the world, where they said, now more than 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the world. They go on to say, most people are not aware that obesity and being underweight are both forms of malnutrition, because in both cases, the people are not getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and the type of calories that are required to be healthy. That's what you're fighting. Because we know, for example, that if you're eating with regular food, we need about 70 of what are called trace ionic minerals. And the best organic you can get, you're going to get 20. So now you're limiting your intake. Well, the researchers, one of the things they found was a food source with all 70 minerals. So again, it had nothing to do with the amount of the calories. It had to do with what was inside the calorie. And the other thing that's really important to all of us are what are called amino acids. And to give you an idea, there's a big misconception around amino acids. There are 20 that we have. 9 are called essential, meaning you have to get them for your diet. But what matters to the human body is what percentage, 0 to 100, are you absorbing? Well, as it turns out, meat, for example, is about a 30% absorption. And the reason people gain weight, they used an amino acid. They found a protein where the amino acid absorption was 91%. And the way that you build muscle in your body is not from lifting weights or from resistance training, but from one of the 20 amino acids called leucine. And so the people in the studies were getting 91% of leucine, therefore without any exercise, they gain lean muscle, because that's how the body makes muscle, is with that one particular amino acid. So again, I would encourage you, if you want, you can go, you can see the website there, the New Health Conversation. It's totally free to go there, and you can sign up if you want for a free consultation. Because remember, this is not a diet. This is not about losing weight. That certainly is one of many factors, but people lost weight, they increased their lean muscle mass, they lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides in just 30 days. They lowered inflammation by 25% in a month and lowered hunger by 41% in a month. But you got to understand the fact you can build lean muscle without exercise. Not that the researchers were against exercise, they weren't. So anyway, I hope you'll take the time to go to the New Health Conversation and sign up for a free consultation. And it's not going to be a sales call. It's really to educate you about what's possible. So I hope all of you will do that. So anyway, everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll be doing more of these live podcasts on a daily basis.